The apartment transfer papers sat on my desk like a loaded gun, waiting for Marina's signature. 42 years old, and I was still trying to buy my wife's affection with real estate. The irony wasn't lost on me. Eli Hartley, financial advisor to half the town's elite, couldn't figure out why his own marriage was hemorrhaging money faster than a punctured oil tanker. Marina waltzed through our front door at 11:47 p.m., reeking of expensive cologne that definitely wasn't mine. Her designer heels clicked against our hardwood floors like a countdown timer, each step echoing through our supposedly happy home in Millbrook's most prestigious neighborhood. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Working late again? I called from my home office, not bothering to look up from the transfer documents that would give her a downtown apartment worth $300,000. Client consultation, she replied, her voice carrying that particular brand of exhaustion that comes from maintaining lies rather than actually working. The new fragrance line requires extensive testing. Marina owned Essence and Elegance, a boutique perfume shop that catered to women who thought spending $200 on a bottle of scented water was a reasonable Tuesday afternoon activity. Business had been booming, or so she claimed. The books told a different story, but then again, Marina had never been particularly interested in mathematics. Funny thing about fragrances, I said, finally looking up as she appeared in my doorway. They're supposed to be subtle. Whatever you're wearing tonight could probably be detected by satellites. Her green eyes flashed with irritation. It's called quality, Eli. Something you might understand if you ever ventured beyond your spreadsheets and client portfolios. Right, quality. I gestured toward the transfer papers. Speaking of which, I've got something that might interest you. Your new apartment is ready for signing. For a split second, genuine surprise flickered across her face before being replaced by that practiced smile she'd perfected over our 8 years of marriage. You're serious? The downtown place? Absolutely serious. Prime location, 2 bedrooms, city view. Perfect for a successful businesswoman who needs her space. I didn't mention that the second bedroom would be useful for whatever activities she'd been conducting during her late-night consultations. Marina moved closer, her perfume cloud intensifying. Eli, that's wonderful. I know I've been distant lately, but running the shop has been so demanding. My phone buzzed. A text from Gerald Morrison, who owned the Millbrook Grand Hotel and happened to be one of my oldest clients. The message was short. This your wife? Attached was a security camera screenshot showing Marina entering a hotel suite at 8:23 p.m., her arm linked with a man I didn't recognize. The timestamp was from tonight, during what she'd just described as a client consultation. I stared at the image, feeling something cold settle in my chest. The man was tall, dark-haired, wearing an expensive suit that screamed, "I sell overpriced luxury goods to gullible women." His hand was resting possessively on Marina's lower back as they disappeared into room 412. Eli? You look pale. Is everything all right? I looked up at my wife of 8 years, this woman I'd supported through business school, bankrolled through her entrepreneurial phase, and was apparently about to reward with a luxury apartment for services rendered to someone else. Just reviewing some client files, I said, closing my laptop. You know how it is. Numbers don't lie. Unlike people, I thought, but didn't say. Well, don't work too late. We can discuss the apartment tomorrow. She leaned down to kiss my cheek, and I caught another wave of that masculine cologne. Thank you for this, Eli. It means everything to me. After she left, I sat in the darkness of my office, listening to her heels click up the stairs to our bedroom. Our bedroom, where she'd probably shower off the evidence of her evening before sliding into bed beside me like nothing had happened. I reopened my laptop and stared at Gerald's message. Then I opened the apartment transfer documents and hovered my cursor over the delete button. 8 years of marriage, 3 years of supporting her business, countless late nights while she built her brand. And now this. I thought about all the times she'd accused me of being controlling when I'd asked about her schedule, all the eye rolls when I'd suggested we spend an evening together, all the comments about my neediness and lack of understanding about her artistic vision. "I'm not your toy," she'd snapped at me just last week when I'd suggested we take a weekend trip together. "Stop trying to control me." Funny thing about sponsorship, it only works when both parties honor the agreement. I deleted the apartment transfer with one click. Then I forwarded Gerald's message to my personal email and started making a list of everything I needed to review. Bank statements, credit card records, business accounts, vendor relationships. If Marina wanted to play games, she was about to learn that her husband hadn't become successful by ignoring the details. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Gerald. "Sorry, man. Thought you should know. Rooms registered to Vincent Russo, fragrance supplier according to the hotel registry." Vincent Russo. I'd heard that name before, always in the context of Marina's business, her primary supplier for exclusive European fragrances, the man who'd supposedly transformed her little shop into a thriving enterprise. I pulled up our joint credit card statements and started scrolling. Dinners at expensive restaurants, hotel charges, gas station purchases in the next town over, all on days when Marina claimed to be working late or meeting with suppliers. The pattern was so obvious I wondered how I'd missed it. Or maybe I hadn't missed it. Maybe I'd just been too comfortable playing the role of the supportive husband to acknowledge what was right in front of me. My phone rang. Marina's ringtone echoed through the quiet house. "Hey." Her voice was soft, almost vulnerable. "I just wanted to say thank you again, for the apartment, for everything. I know I haven't been the easiest person to live with lately." "Don't mention it," I said, staring at the deleted transfer documents. "After all, you're not my toy, right?" There was a pause. "Eli, about that, I didn't mean—" "It's fine, Marina. We both know where we stand." After I hung up, I sat back in my chair and smiled for the first time in months. Marina thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. What she didn't realize was that I'd been watching her moves for weeks, cataloging every inconsistency, every lie, every late-night consultation. Tomorrow, the real game would begin. And unlike Marina's fragrance business, I actually knew how to read a balance sheet. I opened a new document and titled it Project Liquidation. Time to see how my wife handled a hostile takeover. The next morning, I arrived at my office an hour early. Hartley Financial Services occupied the top floor of a glass building overlooking Millbrooks Marina, and from my desk, I could see the morning joggers making their way along the waterfront. Normal people living normal lives, blissfully unaware that their financial advisor was about to wage economic warfare against his own wife. Riley Chen, my office manager, found me already deep in paperwork when she arrived at 8:30. "You're here early," she observed, setting a coffee cup on my desk. "Please tell me you're not having another one of your let's reorganize the entire filing system episodes." Riley had been with me for 5 years, ever since she'd graduated from business school with a degree in finance and a minor in what she called digital archaeology. Her talent for recovering deleted files and tracking electronic breadcrumbs that most people didn't even know they were leaving. "Actually, I need your help with something delicate," I said, turning my monitor toward her. "I need to review all of Marina's business accounts, credit cards, and vendor relationships. Everything that's connected to our joint finances." Riley's eyebrows rose. "Are we talking about a routine audit, or should I break out the forensic accounting tools?" "Let's call it a comprehensive review of our household's financial exposure." She studied my face for a moment, then nodded. "Got it. How deep do you want me to dig?" "All the way to China if necessary. I want to know every transaction, every vendor payment, every business expense that's been charged to our joint accounts. And I want to know about Vincent Russo. The fragrance guy, Marina's supplier. You know him? I've seen his invoices, expensive stuff, European exclusives, limited editions, that sort of thing. Why? I handed her a printout of Gerald's security footage. Riley whistled low. Oh, this is not good. No, it's not. But it's about to get a lot worse for everyone involved. Can you pull Marina's deleted emails from the server backup? Riley's fingers were already flying over her keyboard. Give me 20 minutes. And Eli, you might want to cancel your morning appointments. This is going to take a while. While Riley worked her digital magic, I called my attorney, David Carter. Carter had handled my business incorporation, our prenup, and most importantly, the marital agreement Marina had signed 3 years ago when she'd wanted to expand her shop. Eli, good to hear from you. What can I do for you? I need to review the adultery clause in Marina's marital agreement, specifically the asset protection provisions. There was a pause. I see. Should I assume this isn't a theoretical discussion? You should assume I need to know exactly what options are available to me as of today. I'll pull the file and call you back in an hour. Eli, I'm sorry. Don't be sorry yet, David. Be thorough. By 10 o'clock, Riley had compiled a digital dossier that would have impressed the FBI. Marina's email history, credit card statements, vendor communications, and most damning of all, a WhatsApp chat thread with Vincent Russo that read like a how-to guide for conducting an affair while married to a financial advisor. Look at this, Riley said, pointing to a message from 3 weeks ago. Vincent, your husband seems like the type who counts his socks. Does he actually check the business expenses? Marina, Eli's too busy managing other people's money to notice what I'm spending. Besides, he likes playing the supportive husband role. Makes him feel important. I read through more of the messages, each one a small knife twist. They'd been joking about my neediness, making fun of my attempts to plan date nights. Vincent had even sent a photo of an expensive watch with the message, "Thanks for the bonus, babe. Tell your husband his money has great taste." How much has she spent on him? I asked. Riley consulted her spreadsheet. Direct payments to his company, about $40,000 over the past 6 months. But if you include the restaurant bills, hotel charges, and what looks like shopping sprees, she paused, calculating. Close to $70,000. $70,000 of my money, spent on her boyfriend while she complained about my lack of understanding regarding her artistic vision. What's our exposure if I freeze the joint accounts? Legally, minimal. The business account is in both your names, but you're listed as the primary account holder. The credit cards are yours. She's an authorized user. You could shut it all down this afternoon if you wanted to. I want to. My phone buzzed with a text from David Carter. Reviewed the agreement. Adultery clause is ironclad. She signed away all asset claims in case of infidelity. You're protected. Call me. I looked at Riley, who was watching me with a mixture of sympathy and anticipation. Do it, I said. Freeze everything. Credit cards, business accounts, vendor payments, everything. What about her personal account? That's hers to manage, but nothing else gets paid until I say so. Riley's fingers flew over the keyboard. Done. She'll find out the next time she tries to use a card. That happened sooner than expected. At 11:47 a.m., my phone started ringing, Marina's ringtone. Eli, there's been some kind of mistake. My card was declined at the boutique, in front of customers. I could hear the panic in her voice, mixed with embarrassment. Sophie, her shop assistant, was probably standing right there, along with whatever customers had witnessed the declined transaction. That's strange, I said. Let me look into it. Can you fix it now? I'm standing here with Mrs. Henderson and she's trying to buy the new Parisian collection. Mrs. Henderson was the wife of Millbrook's mayor and one of Marina's best customers. Having her card declined in front of the mayor's wife would be social suicide in a town this size. "I'm in a client meeting right now," I said. "I'll have to call you back." "Eli, please. This is embarrassing. I understand. These things happen." I hung up and looked at Riley, who was trying not to smile. "That was cold," she said. "That was business." My phone buzzed with a text. "Call me now. This is urgent." I turned off my phone. By lunchtime, I'd received 14 missed calls, 6 text messages, and according to Riley, Marina had tried calling the office 3 times. I'd also received a very interesting call from Vincent Russo's employer, Lux Fragrances International. "Mr. Hartley, this is Patricia Wells from LFI's Corporate Compliance Department. We've received some disturbing information about one of our sales representatives and wanted to verify some details with you." I'd forwarded Gerald's hotel security footage to LFI's main office that morning, along with copies of the credit card statements showing personal charges to business accounts. "I'm happy to cooperate with any investigation," I'd told her. "We appreciate that. Mr. Russo's employment status is currently under review." At 2 o'clock, I finally turned my phone back on. The voicemail messages were a progression through the 5 stages of grief, from confusion to anger to bargaining to depression, and finally to what sounded like desperation. Message number 12. "Eli, I don't know what's happening, but we need to talk. Please call me back." Message mantra 18. "This isn't funny anymore. Sophie had to close the shop early because we couldn't process any payments. Call me." Message 23. "I know you're angry about something, but this is affecting my business. Whatever I did, we can work it out." I called David Carter instead. "The paperwork is ready," he said. "I can file the marital agreement violation notice this afternoon if you want to proceed." "Do it." "Eli, once I file this, there's no going back. Are you sure?" I thought about Marina's messages with Vincent, about the $70,000, about 8 years of marriage reduced to jokes about my sock-counting habits. "File it." At 4 o'clock, Riley knocked on my office door. "Marina's here. She looks upset." Through my office window, I could see Marina in the reception area, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. Her usually perfect hair was disheveled, and she was clutching her phone like a lifeline. "Tell her I'm with a client." "For how long?" "Indefinitely." Riley nodded and returned to the reception area. I watched through the glass as she delivered the message. Marina's face went through several expressions before settling on something that looked like panic mixed with rage. She stormed out without another word. My phone buzzed immediately. "I know you're there. We need to talk, now." I typed back, "In meetings all day. We'll call when available." "When will that be?" "Hard to say. Very busy week." The 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times before her final message. "This isn't over." I leaned back in my chair and smiled. She was right about one thing. This wasn't over. It was just getting started. At 5:30, Riley knocked again. "Vincent Russo called. He sounds nervous. Wants to schedule a meeting with you." "What did you tell him?" "That you don't meet with fragrance salesmen." "Perfect. Anything else?" "Gerald Morrison called. Apparently Vincent checked out of the hotel this afternoon. Paid cash and left in a hurry." I looked out at the marina, where the evening light was reflecting off the water like scattered diamonds. Somewhere out there, my wife was probably realizing that her comfortable life of designer shopping and afternoon affairs was about to become significantly more complicated. Tomorrow, the real fun would begin. Saturday morning brought the monthly Millbrook Harbor Festival, a charming small-town tradition where local vendors hawked overpriced crafts to tourists while residents pretended to enjoy forced community bonding. Marina never missed it. Too many potential customers and social networking opportunities to pass up. I, on the other hand, usually avoided these events like the plague. But today was different. Today I had a performance to give. I found them at the coffee stand near the Marina Pavilion. Marina was wearing a sundress that probably cost more than most people's rent, while Vincent stood beside her in casual clothes that screamed, "I'm trying too hard to look relaxed." They were maintaining careful distance from each other, but I could see the tension in their body language. Marina spotted me first. Her face went through a rapid series of expressions: surprise, guilt, fear, and finally a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Eli, I didn't expect to see you here." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, approaching with my own practiced smile. "Beautiful day for a festival. Vincent, isn't it? Marina's supplier?" Vincent extended his hand and I noticed a slight tremor in his fingers. "That's right. Vincent Russo, Luxe Fragrances International." "Interesting timing," I said, shaking his hand with just a little too much pressure. "I was just talking to someone from your corporate office yesterday. Patricia Wells? She mentioned they're conducting some kind of internal review." The color drained from Vincent's face. Marina looked confused. "What kind of review?" she asked. "Oh, just routine compliance stuff. You know how corporations are about expense accounts and professional conduct." I turned to Vincent. "I'm sure it's nothing to worry about." "Eli," Marina said, her voice tight, "we should talk, privately." "Of course. But first, I have something for you." I reached into my jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. "Remember those apartment papers you were so excited about?" Her eyes lit up despite everything. "You brought them? Here? I thought you might want to see them." I opened the envelope and handed her the papers. Not the transfer documents, but the cancellation notice I'd printed that morning. "Congratulations, you're now officially just another tenant." Marina's hands shook as she read the document. "Eli, what is this? This says the transfer has been canceled." "That's right. Turns out the building has very strict policies about tenant conduct. They don't like drama." I smiled at the small crowd that had gathered around us, drawn by the obvious tension. "You understand?" Vincent stepped forward. "Look, I don't know what this is about, but actually, Vincent, I think you know exactly what this is about." I pulled out my phone and showed him the hotel security photo. "Room 412, right? Nice choice. I hear the view is spectacular." The gathered crowd murmured with interest. In a town like Millbrook, this kind of public drama was better than cable television. Marina grabbed my arm. "Eli, please, not here, not like this." "Why not here? You didn't seem to mind public displays when you were spending my money at expensive restaurants." I raised my voice just enough for the crowd to hear clearly. "Or when you were buying gifts for your business associates." Vincent tried to salvage the situation. "This is all a misunderstanding. Marina and I have a strictly professional relationship." "Professional," I repeated. "Is that what you call it? Because I have about $70,000 in credit card bills that suggest your professional services are remarkably expensive." The crowd was growing larger now, drawn by the unfolding drama. I recognized several of my clients, some of Marina's customers, and what looked like a reporter from the local newspaper. Marina's best friend Tess appeared at her side, clearly trying to do damage control. Everyone should just calm down and discuss this privately. "Oh, Tess," I said. "Perfect timing. You might be interested to know that your friend here has been conducting business meetings at the Millbrook Grand Hotel. Very thorough meetings, apparently. Vincent's quite the dedicated supplier." Tess shot Marina a look that could have melted steel. "Marina, what is he talking about?" "It's not what it looks like," Marina said, but her voice was barely above a whisper. "Really?" I pulled out my phone again and started reading from the WhatsApp messages Riley had recovered. "Vincent, thanks for the bonus, babe. Tell your husband his money has great taste." That was from last Tuesday, Tess, right after Marina bought him a $2,000 watch. The crowd was eating this up. Vincent looked like he wanted to disappear into the harbor. "You went through my private messages?" Marina's voice was rising now, panic overriding her attempt at damage control. "Our joint account records, actually." Amazing what you can learn from credit card statements. Did you know Vincent's been unemployed for 3 days? Something about expense account irregularities and unprofessional conduct? I looked directly at Vincent. Funny how corporate policies work, isn't it? Vincent's face went from pale to red. You son of a… Careful, I interrupted. We're in public. Wouldn't want to make an even bigger scene. That's when Vincent made his mistake. He stepped toward me aggressively, clearly intending to escalate the confrontation physically. I'd been hoping he would. I stepped back, hands raised in a peaceful gesture. Whoa, Vincent. No need for violence. I'm just sharing some interesting financial information with my neighbors. But Vincent was too angry to think clearly. He grabbed my shirt and pulled me toward him. You think you're so smart, you… I didn't let him finish. 8 years of marriage to Marina had taught me patience, but it had also taught me when to strike back. I grabbed my coffee cup and accidentally spilled the entire contents down the front of Vincent's expensive polo shirt. Oh, I'm so sorry, I said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. How clumsy of me! Vincent yelped and jumped back, hot coffee soaking through his shirt. The crowd laughed and several people started taking photos with their phones. Here, let me help, I said, grabbing a handful of napkins and making a show of trying to clean Vincent's shirt while actually making the stain worse. Get away from me, Vincent shouted, pushing me away. No need to be rude, I said. Accidents happen, just like those expense account irregularities, right? Marina was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Eli, what has gotten into you? Nothing's gotten into me, Marina. I'm just finally paying attention to the details. You remember details, right? Like hotel room numbers and credit card statements and business expense reports? Tess grabbed Marina's arm. We should go, now! But Marina was rooted to the spot, staring at the crowd of people who were all looking at her with a mixture of fascination and judgment. This is insane, she said. You're humiliating me in front of the entire town. I'm not humiliating you, Marina. I'm just providing some transparency about our financial relationship. You know, like the transparency you showed when you were joking about my sock-counting habits with your business partner here. Vincent was trying to clean coffee off his shirt with a handful of napkins, but the stain was spreading. This is harassment, he muttered. Actually, Vincent, I think harassment is when someone uses their position as a supplier to conduct personal relationships with married clients. But hey, I'm just a financial advisor. What do I know about professional ethics? The crowd was clearly on my side now. In a town like Millbrook, everyone knew everyone else's business, and adultery was still considered a serious breach of social contract. Marina finally found her voice. I want a divorce. Funny you should mention that, I said, pulling out another envelope. David Carter filed the paperwork yesterday. You'll be hearing from his office on Monday. Her face went white. You filed for divorce? Without talking to me? I tried to talk to you, Marina, but you were always too busy with client consultations. I looked around at the crowd. Very intensive consultations, apparently. Vincent finally gave up on his shirt and started pushing through the crowd toward the parking lot. I'm done with this circus. Vincent, wait, Marina called after him, but he was already gone. She turned back to me, tears starting to flow down her cheeks. How could you do this to me? In front of everyone? The same way you could spend 8 years lying to me, I suppose. The same way you could joke about my marriage with your boyfriend while spending my money on hotel rooms. Tess was pulling Marina away now, whispering urgently in her ear. The crowd was starting to disperse, but I could hear the murmur of excited conversation as people shared what they'd just witnessed. I stood there for a moment, watching my wife of 8 years walk away from me for what I knew would be the last time. Then I pulled out my phone and called Riley. How did it go? She asked. Phase 3 is complete. Vincent's unemployed, Marina's publicly humiliated, and the divorce papers are filed. What's Phase 4? I looked out at the harbor, where the morning sun was turning the water into liquid gold. Phase 4 is when they realized this was just the opening act. Sunday evening, I was in my home office reviewing client portfolios when the doorbell rang. Through the front window, I could see Vincent's BMW parked at an aggressive angle across my driveway, blocking my garage. I opened the door to find Vincent swaying slightly, reeking of alcohol and desperation. His eyes were bloodshot, and his usually perfect hair was disheveled. "We need to talk," he slurred, pushing past me into my house. "Vincent, what a pleasant surprise. Come in, make yourself at home." He spun around to face me, his movements unsteady. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Destroying people's lives like it's some kind of game?" "I prefer to think of it as portfolio management. Sometimes you have to cut your losses. You got me fired. Do you understand that? I lost my job because of your little revenge fantasy." I closed the front door and leaned against it casually. "Actually, Vincent, you lost your job because you violated company policy. I just provided some documentation to help them understand the situation." "Documentation? You mean surveillance photos and stolen private messages?" "Hotel security footage is hardly stolen, Vincent. And those messages were on accounts that I pay for. Technically, I was just reviewing my own property." Vincent's face was flushed with anger and alcohol. "You ruined everything. Marina and we had something real. Real expensive, from what I could see. $70,000 worth of real, to be precise. It wasn't about the money." "No? Then why did you thank her for the bonuses? Why did you joke about my money having good taste?" I moved to the bar cart in my living room and poured myself a scotch. "Drink?" "I don't want your drink. I want you to fix this." "Fix what, exactly? Your unemployment? Your girlfriend's public humiliation? Your complete lack of professional ethics?" I took a sip of my scotch. "I'm a financial advisor, Vincent, not a miracle worker." He stepped closer, and I could smell the desperation mixing with the alcohol on his breath. "You don't understand. I owe people money, serious people, without my job. Now we're getting to the real issue. Gambling debts, bad investments, or just living beyond your means while seducing other men's wives?" "Shut up." His hands were clenched into fists now. "Let me guess. You thought Marina was your ticket to easy money. Marry the successful businesswoman, live off her husband's investments, maybe even get your hands on some of those client accounts I manage. You don't know anything about us. I know you're unemployed, desperate, and standing in my living room making threats. I also know that Marina's boutique is about to lose its primary supplier relationship, which means her inventory costs are about to triple." Vincent's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" "Luxe Fragrances International terminated their exclusive distribution agreement with Essence and Elegance this morning. Apparently they don't like being associated with ethical violations." I smiled. Amazing how quickly these corporate relationships can dissolve when the wrong people start asking questions. "You can't do that. You can't destroy her business because you're angry about our relationship." "I'm not destroying anything, Vincent. I'm just allowing natural consequences to occur. Marina chose to mix business with pleasure. Now she gets to experience the business consequences of her personal choices." Vincent lunged at me then, his alcohol-impaired coordination making the attack clumsy and predictable. I sidestepped easily, and he crashed into my coffee table, sending magazines and a lamp scattering across the floor. "Careful, Vincent, you're damaging my property now. That's a crime." He struggled to his feet, breathing heavily. "You think you've won? You think this is over? I think you're drunk and making poor decisions, just like the poor decision to seduce my wife, or the poor decision to steal from your employer, or the poor decision to come to my house and threaten me." "I never stole anything." "Really? Because Patricia Wells from LFI's compliance department had some very interesting things to say about your expense reports. Apparently, you've been billing personal expenses as business costs for months. Hotels, restaurants, gifts." I finished my scotch. "All the romantic gestures you made toward Marina, paid for by your employer. That's fraud, Vincent." His face went pale. "They can't prove anything." "They can prove everything. Credit card receipts, hotel records, restaurant bills. You left a paper trail longer than the Constitution." I set down my glass and moved toward the front door. And now you're trespassing in my home while intoxicated. I think it's time for you to leave. This isn't over, he said, but the fight had gone out of him. Yes, Vincent, it is. Your relationship with Marina is over. Your job is over. Your access to my money is over. The only question now is whether you're going to leave quietly or whether I need to call the police. He stumbled toward the door, then turned back. She never loved you, you know. She told me. She said you were boring and predictable, and that she only stayed married to you for the money. I know exactly what she said, Vincent. I read all your messages, remember? I opened the front door. The difference is, I actually have money. You just spent other people's. After he left, I walked out to my driveway and examined his BMW. Beautiful car, probably worth more than most people's annual salary. I pulled out my keys and slowly, deliberately, carved a long scratch down the driver's side, from the front wheel well to the back bumper. Then I went inside and called the police to report a drunk driver. Monday morning brought a series of interesting phone calls. The first was from Marina. Eli, we need to talk. Vincent is saying crazy things about you sabotaging his job and destroying my business relationships. Vincent says a lot of things, Marina. Most of them aren't true. Did you contact his employer? I shared some relevant information with their compliance department. They made their own decisions based on their own policies. And my supplier contracts? What about them? LFI canceled our agreement. They said there were ethical concerns about our business relationship. That's unfortunate, but I'm sure you can find other suppliers. There was a long pause. Eli, I know you're angry. I know I made mistakes, but destroying my livelihood isn't going to fix our marriage. Our marriage is already destroyed, Marina. I'm just making sure the financial damage is properly allocated. What does that mean? It means you made your choices, and now you get to live with the consequences, just like I had to live with the consequences of trusting you. The second call was from Riley. Vincent Russo was arrested last night for drunk driving. He's also being investigated for embezzlement. And get this, his car was vandalized while he was at your house. Terrible shame about the car. Crime is really getting out of hand in this neighborhood. Eli, please tell me you didn't... I didn't do anything illegal, Riley. I simply exercised my right to defend my property against a trespasser. And the scratch on his car. What scratch? The third call was from David Carter. Marina's attorney wants to negotiate. Apparently, she's willing to waive any claim to marital assets in exchange for you not pursuing the adultery clause. What's she offering? Complete financial separation. She keeps the business, you keep everything else. Clean break, no alimony, no asset division. And if I refuse? Then we proceed with the original filing, which means she gets nothing and faces potential criminal charges for misuse of joint accounts. I thought about Marina's boutique, struggling now without its primary supplier. I thought about Vincent, sitting in a jail cell, facing embezzlement charges. I thought about 8 years of marriage reduced to a legal negotiation. Tell her attorney we'll consider the offer. But first, I want a complete accounting of every penny she spent on Vincent. Every dinner, every hotel room, every gift. And I want it all paid back before we sign anything. Eli, that's probably $60,000 or $70,000. She doesn't have that kind of cash. Then she better figure out how to get it. The fourth call was from Gerald Morrison at the hotel. Eli, I wanted to give you a heads up. Marina was here this morning, trying to get Vincent's room records. She seemed pretty desperate. What did you tell her? That we don't release guest information to unauthorized parties. But she's not giving up easily. She mentioned something about proving you set Vincent up. Set him up for what? Using company expense accounts to pay for hotel rooms? That's not a setup, Gerald. That's just documentation. I know that, and you know that. But she's talking about hiring a private investigator to prove you orchestrated this whole thing. Let her hire whoever she wants. I haven't done anything illegal. What about Vincent's car? What about it? Come on, Eli. The scratch appeared while he was at your house. Gerald, if someone is stupid enough to park illegally in my driveway while drunk and belligerent, they shouldn't be surprised when bad things happen to their property. After I hung up, I sat back in my chair and smiled. Marina thought she could outmaneuver me with private investigators and legal threats. What she didn't understand was that I'd been planning this campaign for weeks, documenting every move, ensuring every action was legally defensible. Vincent was facing criminal charges, Marina was losing her business relationships, and I was sitting in my office completely protected by prenups and marital agreements that she'd signed willingly. The best part? This was still just the beginning. Phase 5 was going to be even more interesting. Tuesday evening found me at Murphy's Tavern, a dive bar on the wrong side of Millbrook's downtown district. It wasn't the kind of place where financial advisors usually spent their time, but Colin Murphy, the owner, had been my friend since college, and his bar was where the town's working class came to drink and gossip. Tonight, it was also where Marina had apparently come to drown her sorrows. "She's been here for 2 hours," Colin told me as I slid onto a bar stool. "Started with wine, moved to vodka, and now she's telling everyone who'll listen that you're trying to destroy her life." I looked across the dimly lit room and saw Marina hunched over a corner table, gesticulating wildly while talking to Tess and Sophie, her shop assistant. Even from a distance, I could see she was drunk. "What's the general consensus?" I asked. "Mixed. Some people think you're being vindictive. Others think she had it coming." Colin poured me a beer. "What do you think?" "I think 8 years of marriage earned me the right to a little vindication." "A little." "Eli, you got the guy arrested, destroyed her supplier relationships, and filed for divorce. That's not a little vindication. That's total warfare." "She started the war, Colin. I'm just finishing it." Across the room, Marina suddenly stood up and started walking toward the bar. Her movements were unsteady, and her designer clothes looked out of place in the working-class atmosphere of Murphy's. "Eli," she said, gripping the bar for support, "I should have known I'd find you here. Celebrating your victory?" "Just having a drink with an old friend. You remember Colin, don't you? You always said his bar was too downscale for your taste." "Don't." Her voice was slurring slightly. "Don't pretend this is casual. You planned this. You wanted me to see you here." She wasn't wrong. Riley had texted me Marina's location an hour ago. Apparently, drunk people weren't very good at keeping their social media private. "Marina, you're drunk. Maybe you should call a cab." "I'm drunk because my life is falling apart." She was raising her voice now, drawing attention from the other patrons. "My business is dying, Vincent's in jail, and my husband has turned into some kind of sociopathic monster." "I haven't turned into anything, Marina. I just stopped pretending I didn't notice what was happening." Tess appeared at Marina's side, trying to provide support. "Marina, come on, let's go home." "Home?" Marina laughed bitterly. "You mean the house that belongs to my soon-to-be ex-husband? The house I'll probably lose in the divorce?" "Actually," I said, "you signed a prenup. The house was never yours to lose." The bar had gone quiet now, everyone listening to our conversation. Colin was polishing glasses with studied neutrality, but I could see he was enjoying the drama. Marina turned to face the room. "You want to know what kind of man Eli Hartley really is? He spent weeks planning this. Weeks. He documented every credit card charge, every text message, every hotel visit. He turned my life into a spreadsheet." "That's what financial advisors do, Marina. We pay attention to details." "Details? You destroyed Vincent's career over details." "I shared factual information with his employer. They made their own decisions about his employment status." "You got him arrested." "Vincent got himself arrested by driving drunk. I just called the police when I saw someone leaving my property in an obviously impaired state." Sophie, who had been quiet until now, suddenly spoke up. "Marina, maybe you should stop. You're making this worse." "Worse? How could it possibly be worse?" Marina turned back to me. "You want to know the truth, Eli? Vincent was right. I never loved you. I stayed married to you for the money, for the lifestyle, for the security. But I never loved you. The bar was completely silent now. Even the jukebox seemed to have stopped playing. I know, I said quietly. I read your messages, remember? You made that very clear. Then why are you doing this? If you know I never loved you, why are you trying to destroy me? I stood up and faced her directly. Because for 8 years I believed in us. I supported your dreams, funded your business, and tried to be the husband you needed. And the whole time, you were laughing at me behind my back. That's not— Yes, it is. You and Vincent joked about my neediness. You made fun of my attempts to save our marriage. You called me boring and predictable while spending my money on hotel rooms with your boyfriend. Marina's face crumpled. Eli, please. I made mistakes, but— No, Marina. You made choices. You chose to have an affair. You chose to steal from our joint accounts. You chose to humiliate me while I was trying to give you everything you wanted. I'll pay it back, every penny. I'll sell the shop, liquidate everything. With what? Your supplier contracts are canceled. Your inventory is worthless without distribution agreements. And Vincent's arrest made the local news so everyone knows about your business relationship. Tess was pulling Marina toward the door now. Come on, Marina, this isn't helping. But Marina pulled away from her friend and stumbled back toward me. You think you've won? You think destroying my life makes you some kind of hero? I don't think I'm a hero, Marina. I think I'm a man who finally stopped letting his wife treat him like an ATM with emotions. I hate you, she whispered. I know. But here's the thing. I don't care anymore. For 8 years, I cared what you thought, what you wanted, what you needed. I built my life around making you happy. And now I'm free. Marina raised her hand as if to slap me, but Colin's voice cut through the tension. That's enough. Marina, you need to leave. Now. She looked around the room at the faces staring at her. Working-class people who had no sympathy for a privileged woman complaining about the consequences of her own choices. This isn't over, she said, but her voice had lost its fire. Yes, it is, I replied. Your lawyer called mine today. You're accepting the settlement terms. Complete financial separation, no alimony, no asset claims. You sign the papers tomorrow. What settlement terms? I never agreed to— You did when you ran out of options. Your business is failing, Vincent's in jail, and you owe me $70,000 in misappropriated funds. The settlement is your only way out of criminal charges. Marina stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked out of the bar without another word. Tess and Sophie followed her, leaving me alone with Colin and a room full of witnesses to the final dissolution of my marriage. That was brutal, Colin said, refilling my beer. That was necessary. You really think she'll sign? I pulled out my phone and showed him a text from David Carter. Settlement signed. It's over. When did that come in? About 5 minutes ago, while she was busy making speeches about how much she hates me. Colin whistled low. You knew she'd already signed when you let her go through all that? I knew she'd signed when I walked in here tonight, but I wanted her to understand exactly why she was signing. And now? I looked around the bar, at the people who were slowly returning to their own conversations and problems. Normal people living normal lives, dealing with normal problems that didn't involve adultery and embezzlement and public humiliation. Now I go home to my house, check my accounts that she can never touch again, and start planning what to do with the rest of my life. Any regrets? I thought about that for a moment. 8 years of marriage, reduced to a legal document and a bar fight. A woman I'd once loved, now broken and desperate and facing an uncertain future. A man sitting in jail because he'd made the mistake of thinking he could play games with someone else's money. No, I said finally. No regrets. I finished my beer, left money on the bar, and walked out into the cool night air. Tomorrow, Marina would wake up divorced, broke, and facing the reality of rebuilding her life without the safety net she'd taken for granted. Vincent would wake up in a jail cell, facing embezzlement charges and a civil lawsuit that would follow him for years, and I would wake up free.